Chapter 69. Murray. Sarah's eyes were closed, her face as peaceful as though she was sleeping. Her hand felt heavy and cold, and Murray gently rubbed his thumb against her papery skin. His tears fell unashamedly into the white hospital blanket, each forming dark spots like the onset of summer shower. There were 4 beds in this section of the ward, all but Sarah's unoccupied. A nurse hovered discreetly in the corridor, giving him solitude. At this most private of moments, seeing him look up, she came to his side. Take as much time as you need. Murray stroked Sarah's hair. Time, that most precious commodity. How much time had he and Sarah spent together? How many days? How many hours? How many minutes? Not enough. It could never be enough. You can talk to her if you like. Can she hear me? He watched the gentle rise and fall of Sarah's chest. Jury's still out on that. The nurse was in her 40s, with soft dark eyes and a voice filled with compassion. Murray followed the tubes and wires that snaked across his wife's body to the myriad machines keeping her alive, to the IV drip with its soothing morphine. They will increase the dose, the consultant had explained when it was time. The ambulance had only taken minutes, but there were minutes too long. In the days that followed, in the blur of nurses and consultants in machinery and paperwork, Murray had made himself relive those moments as though he had been there, as though this had happened to him. There had been an upturned chair in the kitchen, a broken glass where Sarah had fallen by the sink, the phone beside her on the tiles. Murray forced the images through, one after another, each like a blade dragging against his skin. Nish had begged him to stop. She arrived with something foil wrapped, still hot from the oven, catching Murray in the brief space between hospital visits. She had listened to Murray tell her in agonizing detail what no one knew for certain had happened. Then she had put her hands around his and cried with him. Why are you torturing yourself like this? Because I wasn't there, Murray had said. Nish's tears left tracks down her cheeks. You couldn't have prevented this. Cerebral aneurysm, the doctor had said. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Then, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do. She couldn't feel anything. The head insisted it was the right thing to do. It was the only thing to do. Murray opened his mouth, but nothing came out. There was a pain in his chest, and he knew his heart was breaking. He looked at the nurse. I don't know what to say. Say anything. Talk about the weather. Tell her what you had for breakfast. Have a moan about work. She put a hand on Murray's shoulder, squeezed gently, then took it away. Say whatever's in your head. She moved away to the corner, furthest from where Murray sat with Sarah, and began folding blankets and tidying the contents of the mental cupboard besides the empty bed. Murray looked at his wife. He ran a single finger over her forehead, its worried furrows, now smooth flat, and along the bridge of her nose. He skirted the plastic mask that held the tube in Sarah's throat and stroked inside her cheeks, her neck. He traced it over her ear. Say whatever's in your head. Behind him, the sturdy burr of machines continued. Rhythmic sound that formed the language of the ICU. I'm sorry I wasn't there, he began. But the words were sobs and his eyes were streaming, and he could no longer see. How much time had they had together? How much time would they have left if this hadn't happened? Murray pictured Sarah on their wedding day in the yellow dress she had picked in lieu of white. He remembered her joy when they bought their house. As he held Sarah's limp fingers, he saw instead the nails filled with dirt, her face not pale against a hospital wind pillow. The flush of the morning gardening. It hadn't been enough, but the time they had spent together meant the world to him. It had been his world, their world. Murray cleared his throat. He looked across at the nurse. I'm ready. There was a pause. Murray half hoped she'd say not yet, in an hour or so perhaps. Yet at the same time he knew he couldn't bear it if she did. More time wouldn't make this any easier. She nodded. Oh, I'll get Dr. Christine. There's no more talking. They removed the tube from Sarah's throat as gently as if she had been made of glass, pushed away the wheeled machines that had been keeping her beat of a heart too weak to work alone. They promised to be right outside, in the corridor, if they were needed. That he mustn't feel afraid. He mustn't feel alone. And then they left him. And Murray rested his head on the pillow beside the woman he had loved for half his life. He watched her chest rise and fall with a movement so lost light he could barely see it until it wasn't there at all. Chapter 70. Anna. Anna, over here. How do you feel about your mother's death? Mark puts a hand in the small of my neck and steers me across the street, all the while talking to me in a low voice. Don't make eye contact, keep looking forward. Nearly there. We reach the pavement and he takes back his hand to the pram wheels and over the curb. Mr. Hemming. What first attracts it to this millionaire, Anna Johnson? There is a ripple of laughter. Mark takes the key from the pocket and locks the gate. Someone has tied a cellophane bunch of flowers to the bars. For Dad, for Mother, for me, as Mark slides the gate open, just wide enough for me to push the pram through. A man from the Sun steps in front of us. I know he's from the Sun because he has told me so. Every day for the last 7 days, and because he has dog-eared identity card dangling from the tip of his fleece, as though the hint of professionalism negates the daily harassment. You're on private property, Mark says. The journalist looks down. One scuffed brown boot is half on the pavement, half on the gravel that covers our driveway. He moves it, only a few inches, but he no longer is trespassing. He thrusts an iPhone in my face. Just a quick note, quote Anna. Then all this will go away. Behind him stands his psychic. 2 cameras lie like machine guns across the older man's body. The saggy pockets of the parka stuffed with lenses, flashes, batteries. Leave me alone. It's a mistake. Instantly there's a rustle of notebooks, another phone. The small crowd of hacks surge forward, taking my broken silence as invitation. A chance to put your side of the story forward, Anna. This way. What was your mother like growing up, Anna? Was she violent towards you? This last was a raised voice, and now they're all shouting, all trying to be heard, all desperate for the scoop. Robert's front door opens, and he comes down the steps in a pair of leather slippers. He nods briefly to us, but his eyes are fixed on the reporters. Why don't you just fuck off? Why don't you fuck off? Who is he anyway? Nobody. It's enough of a distraction. I shoot Robert a grateful look. Feel Mark's hand on my back again, pushing me forward. The pram wheels crunch on gravel, and then Mark's pulling the gates closed, turning the key. There are 2, 3, 4 flashes, more photos. More photos of me looking pale and anxious. More photos of Ella's pram, with a privacy blanket pegged to the hood. More photos of Mark grimly escorting us in and out of the drive. When necessity demands that we leave the safety of the house. Only the local paper still has us in the front pages. The Nationals have already relegated us to page 5 with a photograph taken through the railings as though we were the ones behind bars inside Mark makes coffee. They wanted us to stay somewhere else. Just a few days, Detective Sergeant Kennedy said. I had just finished giving my statement, the result of almost 8 hours in our windowless room with a female detective who looked like she'd rather be anywhere but here. But there, she wasn't the only one. Back home, the kitchen, the scene of my dad's murder, had been cordoned off. White-suited forensic officers swabbing every inch of it. It's my house, I said. I'm not going anywhere. They found traces of Dad's blood in the grout between the tiles, despite the bleach poured on the floor by Laura and Mum. Blood beneath my feet for all those months. I feel like I should have known. It was 3 days before we were allowed full use of the kitchen again. Another 24 hours before they finished in the garden. Mark had pulled the curtains across the glass doors from the kitchen, so I can't see the piles of earth that now pass our lawn. We close the shutters at the front of the house to avoid the telescopic lens of the headline hunters in the road. There aren't as many today, he says now. They'll be gone by the end of the week. They'll be back for the trial. Let's cross the bridge when we come to it. He hands me a steaming mug of coffee and we sit at the table. I've moved things around, repositioned the table and switched the 2 armchairs. Small changes that I hope in time will stop me picturing what happened here. Mark shifts to the post, leaving most of it unopened and putting it in a pile for the recycling, along with the notes from the reports that litter the driveway until Mark picks them up. Cash waiting in exchange for exclusive rights to your story. There have been offers from publishers and literary agencies, approach from film companies and reality TV shows. Sympathy cards, funeral leaflets, letters from Eastbourne residents shocked to discover that Caroline Johnston, campaigning our fundraiser and committee member, had murdered her husband. They all go in the bin. You'll die down soon. I know. The hacks will move on to the next juicy story, and one day I'll be able to walk through Eastbourne without people whispering to their friends. That's her, the Johnson daughter. One day. Mark clears his throat. I need to tell you something. I see his face and my stomach lurches. A lift dropping to the ground floor. Without buttons, press for pause. I cannot take any more announcements, any more surprises. I want to live the rest of my life knowing exactly what is happening each hour, each day. When the police ask about the appointment Caroline made with me, he stares into his coffee, falls silent for a while. I say nothing, my heartbeat a drum roll in my ears. I lied. I feel the shift again, the ground beneath me cracking, splitting, moving, life changing without a single word, a single line. I never met your mother. He looks up, his eyes searching mine, but I did speak to her. I swallowed hard. I didn't make the connection, not until after your first session with me. I looked through my diary and there it was, your mother's name, and I remembered her phone call, remembering her telling me her husband had died and she needed help working through it. And she never showed up and it didn't enter my head again till that moment. Why didn't you tell me? Mark lets out his breath like she's just running a marathon. Patient confidentiality? There's a question mark in her voice. As though he knows it sounds absurd, and because I didn't want you to leave. Why not? I say, although I already know the answer. He takes my hand, rubs his thumb across the inside of my wrist. Beneath his gentle pressure, the skin pales, blue eyes, veins just visible like the tributaries of a river. Because I was already falling in love with you. He leans forward and I do the same. We met in the middle, awkwardly press the corner of the kitchen table. I close my eyes and feel the softness of his lips and warmth of his breath on mine. I'm sorry, he whispers. It doesn't matter. I understand why he did it. He's right. I would have gone somewhere else. It would have felt too strange to unburden myself to a man my mother had chosen for her own confessions. And if I'd gone elsewhere, Ella would never have been born. No more secrets there. No more secrets, though. No more secrets, Mark says. A fresh start. He hesitates, and I think for a second there's something else he wants to get rid of his chest. But instead, he reaches in his pocket and pulls out a small velvet covered box. He holds my gaze as he slips off the chair into one knee. Chapter 71. Murray. One more, please. It was an awkward pose for the camera, standing side by side with his hands mid-shake and Murray's framed commendation held between them. All done. The photographer finished. The chief constable shook Murray's hand again and smiled with genuine warmth. Celebrating tonight? Just a few friends, ma'am. You deserve it. Good work, Murray. The chief stepped to one side and allowed Murray a moment in the limelight. There were no speeches, but Murray put his shoulders back and held his commendation in front of him. As the chief began to clap, the room filled with applause. A few tables back, Nish gave him a double thumbs up, a beam on her face, before streaming her while clapping. From near the door, someone cheered. Even John from the front door at Lower Meads was applauding. Briefly, Murray pictured Sarah sitting in the audience. She'd be wearing one of her brightly coloured, voluminous linen dresses, a scarf wrapped around her neck or tied around her head. She'd be grinning fit to burst, looking around the room wanting to catch someone's eye to share her pride with them. His eyes were stinging. He turned the commendation around and held it away from him so he could look at it, blinking hard, until there were no more risk of his eyes watering. He had been picturing Sarah on a good day. He reminded himself there was every chance that Sarah might not have been in the room at all, that she'd been at Highfield or at home under the duvet, unable to face accompanying Murray today to his final work commitment. C2621 Murray Mackenzie is commended for the dedication, tenacity, and investigative skills that ensured the detection of the murder of Tom Johnson and the identification of both suspects. His contribution is an exceptional example of supporting false values. The identification of both suspects had been carefully worded. Murray felt a twinge of regret that they'd been unable to bring Caroline Johnson to justice. She had jumped from the balcony of Mark Hemming's seventh floor flat, landing in front of a crowd of onlookers who would forever be haunted by the sight of her body hitting the ground, taking with her any secrets that hadn't already been shared with her daughter. Laura Barnes was on remand pending trial. She had made no comment during the interview, but the body cam worn by the arresting officer had recorded a series of admissions made by her in the heat of the moment. The recordings, together with the case DS James Kennedy and the team had built against her, meant Murray was confident of a guilty plea. Laura had covered her tracks well. The ANPR showed her car in Brighton at the time of the phone's call or purchase. A voice recognition specialist had confirmed that the court control room from the end Brett Taylor matched Laura's voice and would appear in court as an expert witness to that effect. Not that Murray would be around to see it. The applause had died away. Murray gave a nod of appreciation to the audience and then stepped off the low stage. As he made his way back to his seat to listen to the chief making her closing address, he saw Sean Dowling sitting with her old DS, now colleague of Sean at the high-tech crime unit. As one, the two men stood up. They began clapping again, slowly this time. The rest of the table joined them, and as Murray walked down the centre of the room, there was a scraping of chairs and a swell of movement as one by one the friends and colleagues he worked with over the years gave him a standing ovation. The drumbeat of a clap sped up faster than his own footsteps, but not as far as his heart, which was bursting with gratitude for the people in this room, his police family. By the time Murray reached his seat, he was blushing hard. There was a final cheer, and then some more shuffling of seats. As the chief wrapped up, it was a relief to have all eyes looking somewhere other than at him, and he took the opportunity to read his commendation again. It was the third he had received in his police career, but his first as civilian. His first and last. Well done, mate. Nice one. Beer sometime? Dismissed from the formal part of the evening, Murray's former colleagues were heading for the buffet table at the back of the room, clapping on the back as they passed. It was rare to see food at an internal function, police nature to make the most of it. When it happened, Nish pushed her and put her arms around him, whispering so only he could hear. She would have been so proud. Murray nodded fiercely, not trusting himself to speak. Nish's eyes were shining. If I could cut in for a moment. Leah Griffiths in uniform and holding a Diet Coke. A fleck of sausage roll pastry on his tie suggested he'd been first in line for the buffet. Murray shook the hand Leo proffered. Congratulations. Thank you. This is quite some do. Leo looked around the room. The last commendation ceremony I attended served warm orange squash and strict limit of 1 biscuit each. It's a joint do, part commendation, part retirement, economies of scale. Murray added solemnly, using one of the superintendent's favourite buzz term. Nish suppressed a laugh. Quite, actually, that's what I want to talk to you about, economies of scale. Retirement. I wonder if you'd seen the advert for civilian investigation. It is on the cold case review team. Murray had, in fact, no fewer than 7 people had pointed out to him, including the chief constable. Right up your street, I'd have thought, she said. A chance to put those investigative talents of yours to good use and skill up some of the less experienced members of the team. Officially this time, she added with a point of the positive outcome of the Johnson job had meant that Murray's breaches of protocol had been glossed over, but he'd been left in no doubt that had he wished to stay in post, they must never, ever happen again. Murray didn't want to stay in post. He didn't want to stay in the force at all. Thanks, Leah, but I've handed in my ticket. I'm going to enjoy my retirement. Do a spot of travelling. Murray pictured the shiny new motorhome on which he had paid a deposit and would be picking up the following week. It had swallowed a large chunk of percentage pension, but was worth every penny. Inside there was a kitchen, a tiny bathroom, a double bed, and a comfortable living area with a foldaway table, plus a huge steering wheel that made Murray feel like he was driving a truck. He couldn't wait. His police family had been good to him, but it was time to cut the apron strings. Fair enough. You can't blame us for trying to keep you, though, can you? Where are you off to? In the weeks since Murray had shared his plans for retirement, several people would ask him this question. Murray's answer hadn't changed. For years, he lived his life by someone else's clock. Sarah spelled at Highfield. Her good days, her bad days, early shifts, late nights, overtime, working, briefings, debriefs. In Murray's retirement plan, there was no clock, no calendar, no planning, whatever I feel like.